One of the main advantages of working with super successful people that I learned early in my career is that the majority of them own real estate. Now, I'm not here to give you recommendations on investment advice or what to own, but it was instrumental in my life as well as the accumulation of assets. And once you get to a certain point, as far as your net worth, your assets, you've got to put it somewhere. So you've got stocks, bonds, cash, real estate, or maybe some special metals or some gems or gold, things like that. But it was really helpful for me to see how they positioned themselves with real estate as well as what they didn't do. And today I want to share some of that with you. So whether you want to become a multimillionaire, you already are one and want to remain one, or you advise clients, you're going to love today's episode because I'm going to give you some insight on real estate. And what I'm going to talk about today is hiring an architect. So whether it's for a renovation or it's for a new build, a lot of times you need an architect. And we're building our dream home on a mountain. And it's overwhelming. I want to be completely honest with you. It is so freaking overwhelming. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of my league. Like, it's just overwhelming because there are so many decisions. And we already have a basement on it. So that factors into certain elements. The people that we're going to build on it, we're going to build a 15,000 square foot home. The basement that's already there is 5,000. So we'll have part unfinished basement, and then we're going to have, there's a huge garage, and we're keeping part of it. Originally we weren't, but I want to go over specifically an issue that I've already identified. I'm going to take you on this process so you can kind of go hand in hand with me to see what it's like, and hopefully you'll learn some insight on the way that I kind of wish I would have known. So hi and welcome. I'm Annette Bau, founder of millionaireseries.com and host of Millionaire Insider. For over 30 years, I've been advising and researching the top 1% and 2% of millionaires to learn what millionaires do differently. And now I'm providing you practical, easy to implement insights so that you can create a richer and more fulfilling life. As I like to say, a wealthy life. And today we're talking about hiring an architect. And it's such an important topic. If you have anything to do with real estate, or you're going to ever be in a position to be financially free or serve clients that are, you've got to know about real estate. So please click subscribe and ring the bell. Let's face it, if you want to take your life to the next level, whether you want to help people, meaning an advisor or coach, or you are on your journey to either becoming financially free or you already are financially free and want to remain financially free, I encourage you to download our Financial Freedom Formula template. You can go to millionaireseries.com/FFT. But this template is going to help you to create your plan. So far beyond just hiring an architect, you got to know how to create a financially free life. And it has key components. And so this will help you a lot. It's like the next step. This is really the step before you even get to the position of hiring an architect or owning real estate. So again, millionaireseries.com/FFT. For today's show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/187. For all show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/WLI. All materials and intellectual property are copywritten by themillionaireseries.com. The information we provide is not intended to replace any advisor or specialist or provide any investment, financial, tax, retirement, or any planning or healthcare advice. All participants agree to hold millionaireseries.com and its affiliates harmless if results achieved or not achieved. Hiring an architect. The first thing you got to understand is pricing. So we started getting pricing for our lot literally as low as $20,000, as high as $200,000. Some people wanted 10% of our building cost. So figure it out. If you're building a $2 million home, that's $200,000. If you're building a $1 million home, it's $100,000. And that can get kind of pricey. Now, what's really interesting is you've got to factor that in, because if you have $1 million budget and you're having to spend $1.2 million, you got to make sure you have that. So you've got to be aware of pricing and how wide it is. Meaning, what I found fascinating is that obviously the low end and the high end were a little bit different. But when I started looking at the designs of all the people we were interviewing and talking with, and you take the high and low end out and you have the majority of them, they weren't that far off. And so you just got to really make sure that you're aware of how you're being charged. So the first thing is ideally getting a referral. Now, I find getting a referral is always better if you can. As I mentioned, our lot already has a 5,000 square foot basement. It's got like a 6-car garage, and then it's got a huge area that can be ultimately another bedroom with a nanny's quarters, whatever you want down there. So originally we were going to fill it in, and we had bought 2 lots because we just didn't know this one was unfinished, and we thought, oh, who knows what could happen there, we better finish it. And then the more we started looking at the 2 lots, we realized this one was the one. It's just incredible view from the backside of the mountain as well as the city. The other one obviously has a good view too, but not as good a mountain view. So as we were looking at that, we were just planning on filling in the basement and starting. But then the more we started thinking about it, there's already probably about $250,000 to maybe even $500,000 worth of cost of what they put into this basement, because they basically had to dig into a rock mountain. And when we started looking at that, we thought, let's think about if we can use it. So originally my husband wasn't on board, but I'm like, God, this just seems like a no-brainer. Now, one thing we did that was key is we hired a really good law firm. They were really expensive. They still are representing us, but they were really good because it's on hillside. And hillside in Arizona, you can only build 25% of your lot can be your home, and then another 10% can be hardscape. So there are some really important provisions you've got to get down. And what we found is that the people who were building before went right up to the max. So we don't want our garage to be in the basement. We want our garage to be on what's going to be like the 2.5 story. So we're going to have to disturb more land. So thank goodness we have the other lot where we'll be able to take some of that lot on ours and push it down. But those are things that a lot of people didn't know, including architects. So you just got to make sure that you're aware of what's going on and what you've got, your options you have, so you're making the best choice. An interesting thing happened. The owner of our lot, the previous owner, lives in our community. And I ran into his daughter, and she's like, oh yeah, my parents were so excited building. They had everything ready. They were ready to submit. And then I guess the wife decided she didn't want to live here all the time. So they live up in like the Northwest too. So they have a home here and there. And she goes, yeah, but they have an architect. He'd done everything. So I got his information. And we were on cloud 9. We had already talked to several architects. We're like, oh, this is great. He's already knows about the property. He knows about structural engineering, everything. And we were so excited. We met with him. We liked him. He showed us what he had done. It wasn't exactly what we wanted. It was a little too modern, but he just seemed really good. And it was just, everything seemed like right on. I'm like, this is great. And then a critical millionaire lesson, which I've learned this working with millionaires, but gosh, oh my gosh, this was an eye-opener. And one of the insights is you never want the cheapest and you never want the most expensive. Just bottom line. And I learned that early in my career. You want something along the lines of in the middle and making sure they're capable. So we get his price back, and I kid you not, it was the lowest price out of anyone we got. Now, some people would be ecstatic, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it just seemed like, okay, this is too good to be true. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is he just was not capable. Yeah, so the quote was just initially concerning. Now, you always want to get recommendations because we saw his plans, we just kind of assumed he knew what he was doing. And when my husband was then talking with him, all of a sudden he started sharing how he mostly did pool designs. And we met with him the first time, it was like for like 2 hours. The next time we met with him, it's like he didn't even remember us. The third time he showed something, I'm like, oh my gosh. My husband, who could be an architect, could have done a better job at this. So we knew right away this wasn't going to work. And fortunately, he recognized it too. He's like, this is just in over my head, which I thought was so weird that he had drawn it before, but I think it was because the previous owner was able to really help him. So fortunately, we were able to pay him for his time and find a new one. So let's get back to referrals. One of the things that I found is that all of the online architects were super expensive. It was almost like they were spending so much money being online that you were paying for it. So what we found was we found a great firm from a referral recommendation from a builder. And that I found to be really good. In fact, I got a couple referrals from attorneys, real estate attorneys that I know, and some of them were like, this project's just over my head. And I appreciated that. But one of the things that really separated the one we ultimately decided to use is that he insisted on meeting at the property. And what I realized is the ones that weren't that qualified were like, oh no, we don't need to meet at the property. Just kind of give me an idea what you want to do. I'll go look. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if you didn't see this property, you would have no clue. But he was asking a lot of technical questions, and he knew what he was doing. Like my husband's undergraduate degrees in engineering and then project management. So he's got a lot of experience from that whole view. And I mean, this guy was asking some of the most technical questions of anyone we interviewed. So that was really good. And he even met our builder. So that was huge. Now you got to know the style. Without knowing anything about us, some of the firms were like making recommendations. They were showing these like super modern homes that were like just weird. I understand some people want to have people come up and go, oh my gosh, that house. I don't have any desire. Like I would like people to drive by and not even know I'm there. Right? That's probably a whole nother issue. But I don't have a desire to be like, so out there that it doesn't fit in. Now, granted, we've got incredible city views, panoramic city views, all mountain views, no hikers behind us. It's incredible. So we're going to have a lot of windows, but I'm not into super, super modern. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that the good architects started asking questions. Some of these people were making recommendations before they knew anything about us. So that's something that we can learn, all of us can learn at each step. And if you are working with an advisor, whether it's a CPA, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a financial advisor or coach, and they're not asking you questions before they're making recommendations, you probably have the wrong one. Now, this was something I didn't ask, I should have. Who will we be working with? So this firm was a little bit larger, but the firm we decided to hire, I didn't realize we wouldn't be working with the main guy. We are working with him some, but we're working with another architect. Now, interestingly enough, this guy knew about this property. He's in love with it. He wanted to buy it, but I'm assuming he couldn't afford to. But the problem is that some of the things he's doing are things he wants, not what we want. And I'll give you a specific example. We walk in the front door and right there's a wall. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, I want to walk in and see the mountain behind. I mean, he goes, oh no, I like to have things hidden and then they come out. Well, I don't. It's going to be my house. So you got to make sure that somebody is able to see what you want versus what they want. And so we're working through that. Fortunately, the next time we came, now it's completely open. So when you walk in the front door, if you don't have a heart attack before you finally get up to the front door, you open it up and it's just going to be incredible. All right, the design process. You want to make sure this is outlined in your contract and it includes the changes. How are those going to be charged? And you want to make sure that your builder is involved. So the next thing is you got to ask questions and listen. Now, fortunately, because I've had so much experience doing this with my clients, working with so many successful people, but it's really valuable in this process because what I found is before I'd hired somebody, I asked a lot of questions. And what I found is what's absolutely critical to do when you're hiring an architect or really anyone that's supporting you is if you just let them go full circle and you're not even conscious of money, unless you have an unlimited amount of money and no budget, you're going to be shocked. Like people will go, you'll get a house that's double what you're expecting to pay for. So in the process of talking with different people, I learned a lot. Like sliding doors can cost up to $250,000 for one sliding glass door. So you got to be aware of that. And what we will do before we okay the drawings is our builder will be involved. And see, that's what most people don't do. They go and they say, yeah, okay, they sign off. We love this. And then sometimes they go and get approval and then they go get a builder and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, we can't afford $5 million. We were planning on spending $1 million. We were planning on spending $2 million, whatever the number. So be aware of that. That was something that was huge. All right, again, go and download the Financial Freedom Formula template. This is going to help you in your bigger picture. Whether you want to create a financially free life you love or you want to advise those who do, it's going to help you. So millionaireseries.com/FFT. Creating a formula, foundation, strategy, execution is one of the most critical steps in achieving financial freedom, whether you're investing in real estate or whatever you're investing in. So I encourage you to download it. millionaireseries.com/FFT. For today's show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/187. For all show notes, go to millionaireseries.com/WLI. So again, I want to thank you so much for joining me for hiring an architect. You're going to be on my process for my house and you can be nervous with me. I feel like I'm so out of my league. And part of that I think is good. It's always good for us to get out of something we're not used to, but building and designing a house it's very fun and it's very exciting, but it's a major ordeal. And I hope that I can share with you along the way just some of the things that are happening in my life, as well as some lessons I'm learning because I'm learning so much. So I'll look forward to seeing you on our next episode. I'm Annette Bau, host of the Millionaire Insider. All international copyrights are reserved.